No, Carol, there's a lot of things I'm good at, but Shakespeare's not one of them.
Friday nights were not something you argued about. You sat in front of ABC, the TGIF lineup took control, and for the next 2 hours, your weekend basically belonged to television. Then came Step by Step, the blended family sitcom that took the Brady Bunch idea, gave it a 1990s attitude, and added enough sarcasm, chaos, and strange driveway moments to make it feel completely different. Patrick Duffy played Frank Lambert, the flannel-wearing contractor dad who was just trying to keep the house from falling apart, while Suzanne Somers played Carol Foster, the salon-owning mom somehow managing to hold the entire crazy family together. Then you add 6 kids with completely different personalities, plus Sasha Mitchell as cousin Cody, the cousin living in a van who somehow became the secret ingredient of the show, and you had one of the most unforgettable families in TGIF history. The show premiered on ABC in 1991. It lasted for 7 seasons and gave us 160 episodes full of sibling fights, parent lectures, awkward crushes, and the kind of sitcom family life that felt just messy enough to seem real. Today, we are going to count down 15 strange facts you probably never knew about Step by Step. And stay until number 15 because one of the show's most memorable couples was never even supposed to happen. Now, before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and share this with a friend who hears that theme song and is instantly taken back to TGIF nights. Now, let's begin the countdown. Number 1. The show was basically the Brady Bunch, but with more attitude. By the early 1990s, the traditional family sitcom was starting to feel old. Perfect parents, perfect lessons, perfect smiles. Every problem got solved in 22 minutes with a big hug and soft piano music at the end. Audiences, including me, were getting tired of it, and ABC knew it. So they did what television always does when it needs a fresh idea. They took an old concept and made it rougher around the edges. Step by Step was pitched at ABC as a modern version of the Brady Bunch. It had the same basic setup, 2 single parents and a huge group of kids.
I don't know if my science project is good enough.
Mark, I doubt if the other kids in 4th grade are doing anything on genetic research.
Instant family chaos. But this time, nobody acted like it was easy. Frank Lambert was a working-class contractor. Carol Foster ran a beauty salon from her home. Bringing those 2 families together was not some fun little adventure. It was more like a full-contact sport. And the idea worked. ABC approved the show almost immediately. ABC basically looked at Generation X and said, hey, you love that old show, now here is what it looks like when life is not so neat and perfect. Same basic idea, different house, just without the happy filter. Number 2. Cody was originally supposed to be in only 1 episode. So when Cody Lambert first appeared on Step by Step, nobody expected him to stay. He was meant to be a one-time character, a throwaway cousin who shows up, says something a bit strange, and then disappears again, like most minor relatives in sitcoms. But then the studio audience saw Sasha Mitchell perform, and everything changed right away. The reaction was not small or polite laughter. It was a loud, real response that producers in a Miller Boyett-style show always looked for. It was the same kind of strong reaction that had turned Steve Urkel from a 1-episode neighbor into a huge cultural hit just a few years earlier. When Cody got that same reaction, the producers noticed it immediately. They came together and quickly decided Cody would not be a guest character anymore. Mitchell was funny, but Cody was also very different from what people expected at first. He lived in a van and had the relaxed energy of someone like Jeff Spicoli. At first, you might think he was just simple comic relief, but instead, he turned out to be surprisingly grounded in the middle of the whole family. He was strange in a calm way, very loyal, and could talk to both the parents and the kids naturally without it feeling forced.
Yeah, not bad for a dude who's 2 toes shy of a full set.
And what made him genuinely rare was that he worked on every level at the same time. Teenage girls had his Tiger Beat posters on their walls. Dads actually respected him too, which is not something sitcom characters usually manage to earn from that group. He was one of those rare TV characters who could connect with everyone in the room without even trying. Happy Days had Fonzie, Family Matters had Urkel, and Step by Step had Cody Lambert. The van parked in the driveway fit naturally into an already crowded household, and it became one of the most recognizable images from the entire show. A beat-up van sitting in a driveway that somehow felt like the most welcoming place on the whole street.
Number 3. Suzanne Somers turned a Hollywood blacklist into a comeback story. So if you watch Step by Step in the 1990s, Suzanne Somers looked like she simply belonged in the show's chaos. She was funny, warm, and completely natural in the family dynamic. But what most people did not know is that about a decade earlier, Hollywood had basically pushed her aside. In 1980, at the height of Three's Company, Somers asked to be paid the same as her male co-star. She wanted $150,000 per episode, up from $30,000, plus a share of the profits. ABC responded quickly, and not in a gentle way. Her role was slowly reduced to short 60-second scenes filmed separately from the rest of the cast, almost like she was being edited out of her own show. Eventually, she was removed completely, and the label Difficult followed her around in Hollywood for years. For most of the 1980s, Somers was not leading sitcoms. Instead, she performed in Las Vegas shows and promoted the Thigh Master on late-night television. The Thigh Master made her a lot of money, but it was not the comeback she originally expected. Then, Step by Step came along. This was not just another acting job. Carol Foster was not Chrissy Snow with a mortgage. She was a business owner, a mother, and the person trying to keep a 6-kid household under control, while everything around her felt like it was constantly falling apart.
It wasn't your fault. I mean, neither of us could have known the other was going to be in Jamaica.
Basically the opposite of Chrissy Snow. Smart, capable, and fully in control of her own life. The change was intentional, and it paid off. By the mid-1990s, the same network that once quietly pushed her out was now building its Friday night lineup around her. The Thigh Master era was officially over, and Suzanne Somers as Carol Foster had fully arrived. Number 4. Steve Urkel literally crashed into the show and changed its reality. Now, Step by Step was supposed to be more grounded, a blended family comedy about step-sibling tension and the everyday chaos of two households becoming one. That was normal sitcom territory. But then, Episode 2 happened. Just 1 week into the show's run, Urkel appeared in the Lamberts' world, bringing his signature chaos, awkward energy, and complete inability to be in a room without making everything more complicated. And the way it happened was very only on TGIF. The episode of Family Matters, airing right before Step by Step that night, ended with Urkel launching himself out of the Winslow's backyard using a rocket pack. Then Step by Step immediately began with him landing in the Lamberts' backyard. 2 shows, 1 continuous moment, with no break in between. ABC was not gently introducing Step by Step into the lineup, they were announcing it loudly. The moment Urkel crossed over, Step by Step stopped being just a new show trying to find its identity. It became part of the larger TGIF universe, where characters from different shows could realistically cross into each other's lives at any time. Dropping Urkel into Episode 2, not Episode 10 or as a special stunt, but Episode 2 was a very intentional move.
See, the secret is being able to bounce back. Whoa!
It told every Family Matters fan watching that Friday night that this new show was worth staying for, and that the Lamberts were already part of the same family. And for a generation of kids who built their entire Friday nights around the ABC lineup, it worked exactly as intended. Steve Urkel did not even need a dramatic entrance, though, to be fair, a rocket pack is already about as dramatic as it gets. Number 5. That famous opening intro was completely fake. Every year, it showed the same thing, the Lambert Foster family screaming on a huge roller coaster, riding bumper cars, bright sunshine everywhere, and in the background, a big shining lake that made it look like Wisconsin was basically a beach resort. It looked perfect, like pure fun from start to finish, step by step. It also was completely made up. The entire intro was filmed at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. And that huge white roller coaster the family was riding was Colossus, one of the biggest wooden roller coasters in the world at the time. That part was real. Real ride, real screaming, real fear. But the lake was completely fictional. Magic Mountain is in dry, landlocked Southern California, with no ocean, no lake, not even a believable creek nearby. So the production team did what television often does best. They created one, literally. Old-school matte effects removed the parking lots and California hills and replaced them with a bright, sparkling lake that had no business being there. If you go back and watch the intro in HD, you can notice it. The lighting on the water does not fully match the rest of the scene. It looks slightly too perfect, too still. Nobody noticed it in 1991, and nobody was meant to. Meanwhile, while viewers were enjoying the illusion, the cast kept riding the coaster repeatedly until every shot was captured. By the end of filming, some of the younger cast members were probably not acting dizzy anymore. They actually were. All of it happening 2,000 miles away from Lake Michigan, in the middle of a California desert, yet still convincing an entire generation that it was a perfect Wisconsin summer vacation.
Number 6. Brandon Call, who played JT Lambert, was shot in real life and still came back to finish the show. For most of its run, Step by Step lived inside a perfectly sealed TGIF world. Bright lighting, simple jokes, nothing meant to follow you after the credits rolled. But then, 1996 happened. Brandon Call was driving home after a normal day on set when a road rage incident escalated quickly and turned violent. Another driver followed him onto a dead-end street and opened fire. Call was hit in both arms, but still managed to stay conscious and drive himself to a police station. When the news came out, it felt different from normal celebrity headlines. This was JT, the flannel-wearing, joking, easygoing character from Friday Night TV.
Welcome to the premiere of JT's World, coming to you as always from Port Washington, Wisconsin.
Not exactly the kind of story you ever expect to hear about someone from that world. What happened next says a lot about who Brandon Call was. He came back to work, and he came back quickly. No special episode, no big dramatic storyline built around it, just back on set, back in scenes, back to normal filming. But the show quietly worked around him. The tank tops disappeared. Flannels, hoodies, and long sleeves became the standard wardrobe to cover his arms. Camera angles also started to change slightly, doing a little extra work without drawing attention. The production kept everything feeling normal without ever pointing out why. Most viewers never noticed anything different, and that was exactly the goal. Eventually, Call stepped away from acting after Step by Step ended. No big Hollywood move, no chasing the next role, he simply left. Somewhere between that dead-end road in Burbank and the end of Season 7, JT Lambert had already said everything he needed to say. Number 7. The Lambert house was a Hollywood illusion. Now, that house felt familiar. Not just TV familiar, but personally familiar. Like it could have been 2 streets over from where you grew up, on a block you rode your bike down 100 times. And that was not a coincidence. That was South Pasadena, California, doing what it does best. Hollywood had quietly been using that neighborhood as a shortcut for decades. No palm trees, no obvious Los Angeles look, just wide streets, old trees, and houses that look exactly like the kind of place a blended family from Wisconsin could realistically live in. It is one of the most convincingly Midwestern-looking areas in Southern California, and the film industry knows it. Step by Step was not the only production that figured it out. Nearby streets were also used in Halloween, meaning that while Frank was inside fixing a leaky pipe, Michael Myers was technically somewhere in the same neighborhood. Not far from there, you also have Father of the Bride, using the same perfectly normal suburban energy. Hollywood has been recycling those streets for years, and most people never notice. But the part that really sells the illusion is this. The porch people remember, the wide, welcoming one where many of the show's best scenes happen, was not the real porch. It was built on a sound stage at Warner Bros., along with the driveway, the van, and most of the spaces that define the house on screen. The real porch exists, but it is smaller and much less dramatic. The actual house provided the exterior shot, while Warner Bros. Built the version everyone remembers. It was a place made from half real California street and half studio construction, and it worked perfectly. Number 8. The show made characters disappear. Here is something that might mess with you if you think about it too long. At some point during Step by Step's run, there was an entire extra kid in that house. Brendan Lambert, Frank's youngest son from his first marriage. In the early seasons, he is there. He is quiet, sweet, and basically fills the youngest child role in the family lineup. Not a standout character, but still part of the household and clearly present.
Yeah, they play outside, so why don't they call it an outing?
And then, somewhere around the time the show moved to CBS for its final season, he just wasn't there anymore. No goodbye episode, no throwaway line about summer camp or a grandparent's house. The writers simply stopped writing for him. One season he existed, and the next season the family had apparently always been one kid smaller, and nobody mentioned it. And the leading theory was Lily. When Frank and Carol had their baby together, Lily effectively filled the youngest child role, and Brendan quietly stopped appearing around the same time. So instead of giving the character a send-off, the writers just handed his role to an infant and moved on. Brendan wasn't even the first. Back in season 1, Carol had both a sister and a mother woven into the fabric of the show. Aunt Penny, Carol's man-hungry sister, was a series regular who worked alongside the family. Carol's mother, Ivy, was a fixture too. By season 2, both were simply gone. No farewell, no explanation, no forwarding address. The show just quietly narrowed its focus to the core family and never looked back. At the time, these changes were easy to miss. No streaming, no rewatch culture, no one was really keeping receipts. But go back and watch it now, and that house has a very different headcount depending on the season. Blended family on the outside, disappearing act on the inside. If you enjoyed revisiting these TGIF memories, stick around for more deep dives like this. Number 9. Patrick Duffy left Bobby Ewing behind. 13 seasons on Dallas. Oil empires, family feuds, international intrigue. He played Bobby Ewing for so long that half of America probably forgot he was even acting. He could have chased anything after that.
Come on. She cares and you know it. Now let's go find her.
Bigger movies, prestige drama, or another major power role on a different network were all available to Patrick Duffy after his long run on Dallas. But instead, he chose a sitcom because the schedule meant rehearsals during the day, one shoot per week, and most importantly, being home in time for dinner with his kids, which wasn't just a preference, but a firm condition that shaped everything about his role as Frank Lambert. Duffy wasn't trying to build another legend or steal every scene. He just wanted steady work and a normal life, so he leaned fully into playing an everyday man, replacing the suits and oil tycoon energy of Bobby Ewing with flannel shirts, work boots, and a grounded father whose main concern was keeping the household running and 6 kids from chaos. Bobby Ewing would not have survived the Lambert house, and Frank Lambert was never meant to be Bobby Ewing, which is why that calm, unshowy energy worked so well and immediately clicked with Suzanne Somers, as both were experienced actors who had already dealt with Hollywood pressure and ego battles, but now simply wanted a more balanced second chapter where neither needed to outshine the other. While other shows were dealing with conflicts and contract drama, Duffy was finishing work at a reasonable hour, not a flashy move, but perfectly aligned with a character who was never meant to be a star, just a dad.
Number 10. The whole show was built on a marriage that wasn't legal. The entire premise of Step by Step starts with one impulsive decision. 2 people meet on vacation in Jamaica, they fall in love quickly, and they get married before really thinking it through. 6 kids, 1 house, instant chaos. But there was one problem. The marriage was not legally valid. 7 episodes into season 1, Frank and Carol find out that their Jamaican wedding was not officially recognized, which means the entire blended family situation, the house, the kids, and the new life together, was technically built on a marriage that did not legally exist yet.
This means we're not legally married. We're not husband and wife. We've been living in,
Which meant they had to do it all over again. So Carol naturally wanted the full production, a reverend, a proper ceremony, something that actually felt like a real wedding. Suzanne Somers' Carol was all about doing it the right way. Frank, on the other hand, was perfectly happy just signing a form at City Hall and being done with it. But what they ended up with instead was a ceremony squeezed in between the kids' birthday party, with Frank still dressed as a clown after stepping in when the planned entertainer canceled at the last minute. It was chaotic, slightly ridiculous, and somehow completely fitting for a show about 2 people who never really stopped to think before jumping in. The whole series began with an impulse, and it made perfect sense that the wedding did too.
Number 11. The cast was secretly everywhere in the 1990s. Step by Step looked like its own self-contained world. The Lamberts, the driveway, the constant chaos, and the story all feeling like one universe. But the actors were actually appearing all over the decade in other projects at the same time. Take Christopher Castile, who played Mark Lambert, the resident nerd with glasses basically glued to his face. While he was portraying the smartest kid in the household on Step by Step, he was also doing voice work as Eugene on the first season of Hey Arnold.
Good chicken. Nice chicken. I like fried chicken.
That perpetually unlucky, nervous wreck of a kid on Nickelodeon. Yeah, same actor. Which means the most anxious child on afternoon cartoons was also doing homework in the Lambert house every Friday night. Then there is Jason Marsden, who played Rich, JT's best friend, a perfectly normal supporting character on Step by Step, but that voice is also Max Goof in a Goofy movie. Once you notice it, you cannot unnotice it. And Marsden kept showing up across the decade on shows like Full House and Boy Meets World, always just familiar enough to make you pause. And none of these kids were really kids. By the later seasons of Step by Step, most of the cast were actually in their 20s, still playing high school students without anyone questioning it. So if you were actually in high school watching the show and wondering why you didn't look like them, the answer is simple. You were a teenager and they were not. The Lambert house was basically full of adults in backpacks, and somehow that illusion lasted for 7 seasons.
Number 12. Step by Step was built using the exact same DNA as every TGIF classic. If it ever felt strangely familiar, like you've seen this kitchen before, heard this exact joke, or watched this situation play out already, you were not imagining it. You had seen it before, just with different characters. This was not about crossovers, it was about structure. Miller Boyett Productions had a formula, and once you notice it, you cannot unnotice it. Every episode followed the same pattern: chaos, sibling conflict, someone doing something incredibly foolish, and then, right around the 18-minute mark, the tone would shift. The music would soften, usually with gentle guitar or piano, and suddenly, Frank or Carol would be sitting on the edge of the bed, reflecting on what just happened. Delivering life advice like they had been thinking about it all episode. A lesson, a hug, credits, scene. Full House did it, Family Matters did it, and Step by Step did it every week. And it worked because Miller Boyett had already perfected that formula by the time the Lamberts arrived. Even the sets felt familiar, not exactly the same, but built from the same multi-camera sitcom design: an open kitchen, a central living room, and a staircase that somehow became the center of every important conversation. Miller Boyett was not hiding the structure, they were repeating it because it worked. The character design was just as intentional. Every show needed someone slightly outside the main family structure, a character who could enter, create chaos, and then drift out again. Step by Step had Cody in the driveway filling that exact role. Even the theme song followed the same pattern: big, slightly cheesy, and designed to stick in your head instantly. It matched the emotional formula of every other TGIF opening. Step by Step was never trying to reinvent the wheel. It took a proven blueprint, changed the faces, and trusted the system. And that system held for 7 seasons.
Number 13. Sasha Mitchell was a real-life fighter before real life caught up with him. On the show, Cody was the laid-back guy living in a van with occasional martial arts moves, and that part was not just acting. Mitchell was a trained fighter and had already stepped into the kickboxer franchise after Jean-Claude Van Damme. So when Cody dealt with a bully, it often looked less like choreography and more like someone casually handling a real situation. That gave Step by Step a very unusual energy. One moment it was about chores and family rules, and the next, Cody was effortlessly taking control of a situation in the driveway and turning it into a life lesson. But then real life stopped cooperating. In the mid-1990s, Mitchell's off-screen legal issues became serious enough that a clean, family-friendly TGIF show could not ignore them, and Cody's character disappeared without a proper exit. One week he was simply there in the driveway, and the next he was gone with no explanation. The show did not leave that space empty for long. They brought in Bronson Pinchot, already known from Perfect Strangers as the eccentric, bulky Bartakamas, aiming to replace the energy Cody had brought to the house.
You don't know how to drive?
Yo, don't you notice that I take the bike to the salon every day?
Now, the ratings were already slipping by that point, and Jean-Luc's arrival did not reverse the trend. Sasha Mitchell returned for a handful of episodes in the final season of Step by Step, and while it was good to see him back in that driveway, it also felt a bit bittersweet. The show was already on CBS, already struggling, and already running out of road. Cody returned, but the magic felt both grateful and tired, because none of it, the van, the wisdom, the whole energy, had ever really been part of a plan. It happened because one audience on one night reacted to something real. And that is something you genuinely cannot manufacture twice. Number 14. Step by Step ended without really ending. If the final moments felt anticlimactic, that is because they were. In 1997, CBS decided they wanted a piece of Friday night television, so they did what networks do when something is working somewhere else. They bought it. Step by Step and Family Matters were moved into a new CBS Friday lineup called the CBS Block Party. Even the name felt like a warning sign. For viewers who had grown up with the ABC TGIF lineup, the change felt immediate and wrong. The lead-in shows were gone, the familiar rhythm was gone, and the whole Friday night routine disappeared. Ratings dropped quickly, and the show's momentum did not survive the move. CBS quietly canceled it in early 1998, then simply aired the remaining episodes over time without any real send-off. According to the cast, the planned finale was supposed to be Dana and Rich's wedding, a proper ending after 7 years of stories. Instead, the final episode that aired was simply about Frank being offered a new house, leaving the series without a true conclusion.
But these old houses, Howard, these things kind of pop up every now and then. But it's not going to make you change your mind, is it?
The family talks about it, and then the credits roll. No wedding, no farewell, no emotional final scene built to give 7 seasons a proper ending. Just an ordinary episode that clearly felt like it was written expecting another season that never happened. Sasha Mitchell's Cody had just returned after a long absence, while Brendan had already quietly disappeared when Step by Step moved to CBS, with no explanation given to viewers. The family felt like it was still in the middle of its story, and then the story simply stopped. For many viewers, it did not even feel like a finale, just another episode that happened to be followed by nothing new. 7 seasons with no real ending. The Lamberts never got a goodbye. They just slowly ran out of Fridays.
Number 15. Step by Step. Dana and Rich were never supposed to fall in love. When Rich Hawkey first appeared on the show in Season 5, the plan was simple. He was supposed to be Sasha Mitchell's, JT's, best friend. Just comic relief, background presence, not the kind of character meant to become part of a main relationship. And Dana Foster wanted nothing to do with him, which, in sitcom logic, usually means something is about to change. Rich was easygoing, a little goofy, and not exactly strong academically. Dana was intelligent, ambitious, opinionated, and had very little patience for anyone who could not keep up with her.
You know, you might actually be able to think of something if you weren't undressing me with your eyes all the time.
They clashed every single time they were in the same room. The chemistry was obvious to everyone except the two of them. By Season 6 of Step by Step, they were a couple, and Rich had moved into the house completely. The best friend who walked through the front door and never really left. The writers leaned into it so heavily that the planned series finale was supposed to be Dana and Rich's wedding, a full ending built around a relationship that started as a running joke between a laid-back slacker and the girl who could not stand him. The wedding never happened because the show was canceled first. There were even early discussions about a spin-off centered on Dana and Rich, a continuation that would follow them beyond the Lambert house. But it never moved past the idea stage and quietly disappeared, which fits the show's history perfectly. And that is it. 15 strange facts about Step by Step that show the Lambert-Foster household was much more chaotic behind the scenes than it ever looked on screen. Let us know in the comments and hit like if this brought back some Friday night memories. And subscribe for more retro TV deep dives, and share this with a friend who absolutely would have loved to move into Cody's van if given the chance.